Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlam, is everything okay? You can hear me clearly and is everything okay? You can see
ايوه.
the screen? Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I'm going to talk to you about our visit, which was in Somalia. But just as a note here, Somalia has a very rich history and a very rich culture. It goes all the way to thousands of years, even before Islam, just like Oman. So I will not be doing justice to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you about the history or the geography or the culture and the tradition of Somalia. What I'm going to share with you is a very brief summary of our visit plus a little bit of introduction of Somalia as a country. So basically, and Somalia so the agenda I'm going to cover today is a brief introduction, as I said, about Somalia, and also some quotes from some famous travelers and voyagers who visited Mogadishu and other ports in Somalia. And I'll also talk about the current relationship between Oman and Somalia. I'll talk about Sultan Bargash bin Said and then Wali Suleiman bin Ali and then the Gereza Palace and our visit Somalia. Another note here is that I have prepared videos to show you, but apparently we have a technical problem, so we will not be able to share the videos immediately. So at the end of my talk, I will show you the videos in one go, inshallah, if all goes well. Okay. So Somalia also is known as the Horn of Africa, and it above it or to the north is Djibouti, to the west is Ethiopia, to the south is Kenya, and it has a coastline of more than 4,000, or some say 3,800. The number is disputed, but let's say it has the longest coastline in African continent. Uh, Also, between the port of Salalah and the port of Bosaso is only 485 nautical miles. So what that means is that you can travel even on a normal ship or boat within a day or so between these two locations. They're extremely close. Also remember, Somalia is very rich, which I'm going to talk about in terms of natural resources and agriculture and livestock. So, it acts as also as a food security source for us, for Oman. You can get supplies very shortly from Somalia, in any unforeseen situations. Okay, what have the famous travelers said about Somalia? For example, Ibn Sa'id al-Maghribi in 1286, he said he noted the city of Mogadishu had already become a leading Islamic center in the region. The city was the height of its prosperity, and he described Mogadishu, some what is it, like 1286, 900 years ago, as a big city or very big city. Another traveler, after visiting Mogadishu in the 12th century, a very famous Syrian historian known as Yaqut al-Hamawi. I'm sure many of you have heard about him. He described Somalia as the richest, most powerful city in the region and in the Indian Ocean. Vasco da Gama, who also passed in Mogadishu in the 15th century, he noted that it was a large city with houses 4 to 5 stories high. Imagine, in the 15th century, Somalia had 4 to 5 stories buildings and large places in its center, many mosques and beautiful, minarets. Somalia, when we talk about Somalia, brothers and sisters, over the last few decades, we know it as a place of conflicts, as a place of, sometimes starvation even and drought but in fact, Somalia is extremely wealthy country, very rich. It has forests. I don't think many people know that Somalia has got two prominent rivers, Sebele and Juba in the south. And there are like wild animals that just the ones you find in Serengeti, like elephants, rhinos, giraffes, and cheetahs, and lions, and hyenas. And as I said, the beaches are beautiful, extremely white, sandy beaches, and the climate is tropical. You can almost grow anything you want. Somalia, having worked in the oil industry myself, and studied what you call geology and understanding how the depositions are made. In Somalia, there has been almost none or very, very limited exploration. So Somalia lies on a gold mine, on a natural resources of oil and gas, but especially the offshore. Somalia has very rich marine life, and as I said, the land are very, very fertile. Somalia has been over the centuries known to export, a lot of agricultural products and livestock. And I will tell you, the trade between Oman and Somalia right now. So Somalia has got 7 terrestrial ecoregions. It has got mountains, it has got wadis, it has got what is known as the northern Zanzibar Inhambane coastal, forest mosaic. It has got these are scientific kind of descriptions, but basically what we're trying to say here is that it has got extremely green, fertile regions and some deserts and some mountains, grasslands, which are usually the hub for wildlife, and it has got the Somali montane toxic woodlands and East African mangroves. So you can imagine, Somali being from north to south, the variety of its geography is really a wonderland. So the demographics on Somalia up to this point, the majority of Somalis live in the villages and in the farmland where they do farming and so on. So only 45% have settled in the cities as opposed to many countries. Look, I'm now in Qatar, Doha, and I would say 99% of Qataris live here in Doha, in the city. Almost very few people live outside the city. In case of Somalia, the majority live in the farms, in the villages, which is healthy for an economy to grow and boost. So the demographics are the majority are Somalis, and almost, I would say, 100% of Somalis are Muslims. And one of the things we noticed during our visit is that, every time a call for prayer is made, everybody goes to Salah. And also
Good
what we
morning.
notice is I haven't seen a single girl, without a hijab. 100% hijab in Somalia for girls and ladies. So there are
Good
about
morning.
2% of Arabs. Good morning. Good morning to you. Okay, now this is what I want to really bring your attention to. Somalia, just like the misconceptions we have about its geography, about its history, about its people, about its culture. By the way, Somalis are known to be extremely, extremely hospitable. There are people who are just, I do a lot of correlation between Somalis and Omanis. Very friendly, very welcoming, and Somalis are also very brave, amazingly, mashallah. These are people who are known to be extremely brave, who will take risks, not only in protecting whatever they have, but also protecting the religion, protecting the family, and they're extremely brave. Also brave in taking decisions when it's related to business. They take high risk in business. They're not reluctant people. So the Somali, what I've shown you here on the graph is that a pie chart showing the trade of Somalia. So Somalia, they they export to us livestock, agricultural products, fish, frankincense, luban. Remember, Somali, just like Oman, produces luban or frankincense, and they used to export it to Egypt, and also honey. These are the few products that Somalis export to Oman, but the amount is huge. It's 500 million US dollars. Can anyone imagine between Oman and Somalia, the trade relationship is $500 million. That's a lot of money. We don't do that kind of trade with countries that we know a lot about. So in return, we import from we export to Somalia iron, steel, and most of the cement that is found in Somalia is from Oman, Rasul cement, Oman cement, In fact, somebody told me 90% of the supply of cement in Somalia comes from Oman. And in addition to petroleum products, cables, electronics, and many other things. This is just showing you the history of Oman and the Al-Busaidi dynasty, starting from Said bin Sultan. Remember, the Oman history doesn't start yet. It goes way back to Nabhan, the Arabas, Malik. It's a very, very long, but for the sake of this brief talk, I'm touching from Said bin Sultan downwards, and it's divided into two categories: those who ruled Oman and those who ruled in Zanzibar. So the most noted one in the one I'm going to talk about is Said Barghash bin Said. He ruled Zanzibar, and he was known to have done a lot of accomplishment in many things, which I'm going to touch upon. So Barghash bin Said, when he took over from his brother Majid, he's credited, with developing the infrastructure of Zanzibar. Among them, of course, is building palaces and ports all over the East Africa, all the way down to Comoros. So he's also, we recently visited Zanzibar as well, where we saw the Mtoni Palace, the Marhubi Palace, and the Bet Al Ajaib. Sorry, the Mtoni was built by Said bin Sultan, but the Bet Al Ajaib, or the House of Wonders, was built by Barghash bin Said. So he built parks, he built hospitals and huge government buildings. As I said, the House of Wonders in 1883. He also established what is known as Matba'a Sultaniya, or the Arabic printing press, way, way, way back. Some I would say like 150 years ago. There was like a printing press known as Matba'a Sultaniya in Zanzibar. So books and magazines, and it was the peak of knowledge and reading and understanding, and ulama were at their peak in terms of spreading knowledge. Also, there were street lights in those days, some 150 years back. So when we were in Zanzibar like a week ago, the lights were coming on and off. This same island had electricity in 1882. So they were the first to bring electricity, and unfortunately now, the power goes on and off. So he was given many, many credentials and orders and recognitions from leaders in the world. And these are some of the medals he was given, Barghash bin Said. Very charismatic, very ambitious, very, very, you can talk for days about what he achieved, Barghash bin Said. So the Omani influence, according to George Rivoli, he mentioned during his visit to Banadr. Banadr, again, is the coastal area of Somalia, including Kismayu, Barava, Marka, Mogadishu, and so on. So he described that the coast that extends north of Juba to the city of Orshet, which the Arabs call Banadr, that it is completely subject to the Omani protection from the Sultan of Zanzibar. So it includes places like Juba, Mogadishu, Kismayo, Barava, Marka, Jilib, Tanana, and so on and so forth. And I can show you the map, which I have later on. This was the last wali who stayed at the Gereza Palace, Suleiman bin Ali. He was also known to be a keen reader and an explorer himself. So he had more than 10,000 books in his library, and he would receive books, and as I said, from Matba'a Sultani and also from Egypt. He chaired, and sort of, he was also the judge, and he would solve problems between the tribals in Mogadishu or in Somalia in general. So he was also himself an achieved commander in the army. Hence, he was given this position by Barghash Sultan, or Said Barghash. So during the leadership of Suleiman, Al-Wali bin Suleiman, there was those ports were extremely busy. There were imports and exports going to the maximum, and he was a wide leader, to be honest. And trade, as I said, flourished. And you remember, those are my age people will remember, whether you're in Zanzibar, whether you're in Pemba, in Mombasa, whenever a ship comes from Somalia, they will bring either the ghee or salmon, whatever. I mean, the trade at that in those days, Somalia. Also, you have to remember, you go from Oman to Aden and then Somalia before going down south. Uh, so Somalia was rich in ivory, amber, rhinoceros horns, which we used to make khanjar for, and rubber and ostrich feathers, sesame oil, and banadria. They're also known to be very famous in making textiles and garments. So in that area, in those days, there was a lot of trade and a lot of prosperity. This is some photos we got from Bristol archives in UK. And they have, by the way, a lot of collection about Al-Wali Suleiman bin Ali. They have even documents going back, detailing how the Italians took over. And the story of how Italians came to take over Somalia by itself, it needs an entire session. Remember, when Omanis were there, they were intermarrying with Somalis, learning their culture, sharing their food, and living in, praying in the same masjid. Hopefully, I'll be able to show you some of the videos at the end of my talk, the interactions we had. Uh, as opposed when the Italians took over, I would say there was bloodshed, there was segregation, there was absolute, dictatorship, especially when Mussolini took over. He was known to be just as bloodthirsty as Adolf Hitler. So the Omanis not only lived in peace and love and sharing, the values of Islam, the values of our tradition, and so on. But unfortunately, 100 years ago, Italians came, took over, and a lot of carnage, a lot of harm was done. This is showing to the right here Al-Wali Suleiman bin Ali and his son Muhammad. And to the left is Suleiman bin Muhammad. Suleiman, to the left is my father, actually. And they all had, subhanallah, charisma and love and passion for being Muslims and Omanis and so on. This is the Gereza. This is the palace that Bargas bin Said built. Now, if you go to Mogadishu, they all call it Bargas palace, or Bargas Qal'a, or Bargas Husam, or Bargas Fort, whatever you want to call it, because he never lived here. The walis appointed by him were living, but he was the one who made the instruction for this building, beautiful building to be built. I have a video of the building taken in 1924. I'll share it with you at the end. All the videos, hope I'll try to show you at the end. Okay, another aerial photo taken of the Gereza of the palace. Gereza, they call it, the locals call it, it's up in an area called between Hamarwain and Shangani. And Al-Wali Suleiman was buried just in a place called Awaweska, not far from here. Okay, so it was built under the request or under the instruction of Barghash bin Said in 1872. So as I said, it was in Hamarwain. It is still located in Hamarwain. And the governors, there were a number of governors, Suleiman bin Hamad and so on, that Osef bin, there are many others who stayed there. I wouldn't say many, but a number of them. But the first one and the most also famous one to have lived there was Suleiman bin Hamad. Okay, so the palace was rebuilt again in 1930 and it was converted to a museum. So it was a museum until the days of Ziad Barre in 1991 when the civil war started. So the original, I mean, when they rebuilt it, they maintained, the architecture and so on. So the inside distribution of the rooms was changed to adapt the needs of the collection. So there were thousands of items in that, and it was the National Museum, and you can correct me for brothers who might, or sisters who might have joined us from Somalia, that it had so much insight in terms of antiques. So the interior design inspired by the South Arabian Omani of Muscat and Zanzibar. So in its early days, the museum contained collections of handwritten documents in Arabic, including passages from ancient records, correspondence of local leaders, scholars, officials, and also, of course, khanajir and suyuf and dara'am and so and a lot more. This is how the museum looked from the inside. And you can see Khanjar, and I believe this was Khanjar was won by Al-Wali Sulaiman bin Ali. And you can see also the safe of the daggers on the right. And I will show you something really interesting. And is that this is also the interior. Look how beautiful it is on the, especially on the bottom, how well it was arranged, the museum. And on the left, you can see the pillars with the guard standing at the end. And look at the doors. I mean, typical Omani doors. Now, the videos, I'm afraid they'll have to come at the end. So I have a video from the Somali archive taken in 1924. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. So hopefully at the end, I will be able to show it with the help of Ahlam. Okay, now the palace right now, after the civil war, it collapsed. It was damaged. The roof was almost entirely gone. As I said, it was a museum. So right now, it is mainly you can say seriously damaged. So I have videos and photos to show it with you. So this is how the palace or the fort looks like now. By the way, it's very close to the beach. And we went inside, and what I said earlier on, the interesting thing is that when we went inside, the well that was there, it still exists. You see, the one on the right is when it was taken about 150 years ago. And the well, I took this photo on the left that you see. So the well is still intact there. And inshallah, there is a serious plan. And the reason I went, by the way, with an official delegation from Oman, with engineers, with contractors, who will, inshallah, rebuild the museum of the palace as soon as possible. Again, this is there was a local news from the Somali channel showing the area that this place needs, and locals, they're saying rebuild this area. We ask Omanis to bring it back to its, days. So the locals are being interviewed saying that this area, this palace needs to be restored. And that's the purpose of our visit, actually, to restore the palace. This is when we arrived in Somalia. That's our head of delegation, and we were given an absolutely marvelous hospitality. Honestly, Somalis, they impressed us. Wallah, to be honest. When we arrived at the airport, the delegation were taken to the VIP lounge. Everybody was given a SIM card, activated. We had data. We contacted our families. We went on, to do the tour almost the same day of the Gereza and other scenes. This is on your right. They call this, by the way, Burj Oman. Ahlam. Ahlam.
نعم نعم.
I hope I'm not talking to myself.
No.
I just wanted to make sure if all is well and the internet is fine and you can hear me, right?
Yeah, good, yes.
Alhamdulillah. And we'll give chance really for questions and comments and discussions after I finish. So this is Burj Oman. Beautiful lighthouse by the beach, and look how it looks on the left now. And this collapse, where 5 people were killed, including 2, 3 children, was what happened in September 2023. So there was again, just like in Bet Al Ajaib, there was a sudden collapse of the Burj Oman. So the idea is, to bring these Omani symbols back to where they were. This is us visiting the Mogadishu city and looking at the Gereza Palace. Yeah, so we met a lot of Somalis during our visit. And what I can say to you, I think some of you might have seen, a video we made by interviewing some locals about what they think about Omanis, what they remember from Oman, how they were here. And all they talk about is love, and all they talk about Omanis presence here was based on absolute mutual respect. And this is known, as, like everywhere else. And we had a dinner hosted by the governor of Somalia, where you can see our head of delegation was given a typical Somali tribal chief dress. Okay. And this is one of our members of delegation surrounded by, I think he liked this photo, so I'm sharing it with you. We had soldiers all over us, protecting us. And I take this opportunity really. Today is Jum'ah. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give Somalia peace, stability, prosperity that it deserves, flourishing that it deserves, and to make the different sects and tribals and so on to unite, يعني كبنيان مرصوص يكونوا في صف واحد to build this beautiful country with beautiful people, and to prosper. And because the prosperity and stability of Somalia will really have an impact not only in Africa but even to the Middle East. I showed you in the beginning that beautiful, amazing location strategically between the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and so on. So again, these videos I will try to show you at the end. And by the way, this is now the museum in National Museum of Oman. They have dedicated a corner for Al-Wali Suleiman bin Ali. So, if you visit the museum next time, you will see some of the stuff here. So now, Ahlam, shall we try and do the videos?
Okay, are you done with the slide?
Yeah, I'm done because I'm done with the slides. So we can start the videos now. I need you to guide me, please.
Okay, maybe stop sharing.
Okay, stop sharing. Done.
Then you go to your drive where your videos are.
Okay. Here. Can you see it?
No, wait. خلاص, you open that drive, that screen.
Yeah, I opened it. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
let's start sharing again.
I go back and they start sharing.
Start sharing.
Sharing.
Just go. لا تحت في share screen.
Yeah, share. Yeah, okay.
And then now open your video.
Okay, so we'll start with the Gereza video. Can you see it? Salam, you can see the video. This is
andira ayaa waxa uu la hadlay odayaasha degmooyinka Shangaani iyo Xamarweyne oo shaki badan ka qabay dhismo lagu wareejinayo dhismaha qadiimiga ah ee Sayid Barqash. Cabdishakuur Shaasha ayaa inoo soo diray.
halkani waa hooygii gumaysa kalkaalkii Cumaaniga ahaa ee Sayid Barqash oo uu ka taagnaa maalmahan muran la xiriira dhisme maamulka gobolka Banaadir uu ku wareejinayo dhismahan oo odayaasha degmooyinka Shangaani iyo Xamarweyne ay ku fasirteen dhul boob lagu hayo goobihii taariikhiga ahaa oo ay lahaayeen.
أحلام
أيوة.
خلصت، بس الحين نطرح الأسئلة. يعني I think people want to ask or discuss or give comments.
Okay,
But
stop
that
share.
will be okay.
Stop.
I stop sharing. Okay.
خلاص. Now people can ask you.
Yeah,
Open.
please, you're free to ask or even comment.
That last video was scary صراحة.
In fact,
So that
remember, Halam, I told you there is something I very, very this, but I said maybe and I would rather not mention it because it will scare people. But in that place, it needs our dua, it needs our prayers for absolute, inshallah, peace. نعم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أنا برخد محمد من صلالة. أشكرك يا مهندس عبدالوهاب
نعم.
بشكل جزيل. هذه الطرح جميل صراحة، وأتمنى أنه يتكرر دائما. فمجهودك صراحة كبيرة جدا في تنسيق شو اسمه بين ثقافات أو تقريب بين ثقافات عمانية وصومالية، وأصلا هم ثقافة واحدة، ثقافة إسلامية عربية أصيلة. فمشكور، جزاك الله خير في هذا الطرح اللي قبلها. أنا لي سؤال بسيط يعني.
نعم.
الآن أنت زرتم قريبا في مدينة مقدشو، وماذا رأيتم في أرض الواقع، في ممتلكات خاصة لأشغال العمانيين، لأنه كانت موجودة وتأثرت أو تضررت أيام الحرب، ولكن ما زالت موجودة حسب ما سمعنا. وأنا لاحظت الفيديو هنا أنه كأنه في تجاوزات بعد شو اسمه ممتلكات. فلو الله يخليك تعطينا نبدأ من هذا زين، لأنه هذا يهمنا إحنا كصوماليين. على أساس إحنا نريد نحافظ في ممتلكات أشغالنا في بلدنا. وشكرا.
بارك الله فيك. شكرا أخي العزيز، شكرا. أظن هذا السؤال نفسه الشيء يطرح عندما مثلا يعني يذكر مثلا العمانيين تواجدهم في زنجبار أو في أماكن أخرى. هذا السؤال دائما يطرح. احنا خلال زيارتنا إلى مقدشو التقينا بمسؤولين، يعني كبار المسؤولين في مقدشو وفي الصومال وبنادر، وأخبرونا أنه أي شيء يرجع لعمانيين وعلى حسب القوانين والدستور والنظام الموجود معاهم، إن شاء الله ما راح يعني يروح حقوقهم، سواء من الممتلكات من أراضي أو غيرها، ولكن بشرط أنه هم الآلية اللي موجود معاهم حاليا هو إقامة دراسة وبحث. لأن لا تنسى أنه كثير من الوثائق فقدت، كثير. الحين إحنا لما زرنا القلعة، بين القلعة وبين الأرض مخصصة للسفارة العمانية في بنايتين. فأول يذكر أنه كانت هي عبارة عن منطقة واحدة. فهذا الموضوع حساس للغاية، وما نريد احنا مثلا ان نتدخل فيها. انا مثل ما تقول كفرد، هذه بين المسؤولين والمعنيين عليهم ان شاء الله يرفعوا لنا انه الكل يحصل ما يحصل على حسب القوانين الموجودة معهم. نعم، بارك الله.
شكرا لك، شكرا لك. ايضا في تواجد كبير في الصوماليين ايضا، اذا شفنا الجانب الثاني في جنوب سلطنه وكثيف وكبيره جدا. فماذا عن العلاقات بين الاخوه، بين اللي هو من اصل صوماليين مع تواجدهم في ارض السلطنه؟
والله أخي برغد، كما تعلم في قبائل دارود وقبائل كثيرة. هي لو أراد يعني أنا في البداية قلت لكم أنه تقريبا جدا صعب احنا نغطي. sorry for those who speak English, sorry we are deviating a little bit, but brothers asking about Omani's belongings or properties and so on that is in Somalia, and also the relationship and the Somalis that are right now in the south, like the tribe of Darut and so on. هذا يحتاج إلى جلسة خاصة وإلى بحث وإلى نقاش وإلى يعني خلال هذه الفترة البسيطة يعني ما نقدر نغطي. هي أقدر أقول لك إنه يعني بحر من العلم علاقات الصومالية العمانية التاريخية. نعم.
Sheikh abdulWahhab, my question is, I'm forgetting my history-wise. I'm not so good. What was the reason for the start of civil war?
This طلال مسلم.
Mr. Shebani.
Sorry?
Mr. Shebani.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
What was the reason for the start of the civil war in Somalia?
It started in 1991. Ziad Barre was ruling at the time. People felt maybe he was giving preference to his tribe, and he was maybe some even thought he was a dictator. Just like we had situations in our region, and so what happened in Iraq, what happened in Libya, so suddenly people decided to overthrow the government. So he was overthrown, Ziad Barre, and that was in 91. So 33 years later, we still don't have a proper functioning government in Somalia. So during his rule, things were okay. Maybe he had different way of leading, but he was more into like socialist, I would say, but anyone can correct me. So it was mainly a civil war. And Somalia started being divided as a result. Remember, the greater Somalia covers Djibouti, covers Ogaden, which is in the south of Ethiopia, covers NFD, or the North Frontier District in Kenya. So those are Somalis who speak Somali and who are, proud Somalis. So there is a greater Somalia that needs unity. But to answer your question, it's a civil war. It's to do with tribe. They're all Muslims. They believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But tribalism is an issue there. So it's very sad. I think what should unite us is Islam. No, not what tribe you are from. That's it.
Is it stable now? Is it stable now? Because I understand that there's like Somaliland, which is quite stable than any other place.
Yes.
But
yes. Yeah, the Somaliland is very stable. I mean, but as you go, Mogadishu and its surrounding are having issues. But even when you go to Kismayu, Marka, and so on, as you go down south, it's very stable. So to generalize that Somalia from north to south is unstable is not true. So only some areas are not stable.
Shukran.
Sheikh abdulWahhab, thank you for this nice presentation. I think to answer the question of Lakhisa, there is also military intervention that you didn't mention. The American military intervention in Somalia. Whenever you have these civil wars, usually there is instigators, foreign, instigators. So that's related to the civil war. I visited Mogadishu 40 years ago, exactly. It was exactly 40 years, I remember. And it was a peaceful, it was a nice place at that time when I visited. My question, what is this something special about Somalis with their love of the Quran? It seems to be there is a lot of connection, with the Quran. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Wallah, Sheikh Hafid, we were staying in a hotel called Al Jazeera, and there was a conference going on. So there were about 100, maybe 100 plus people attending the conference. And so during Adhan, Maghrib, everybody, 100% of those who attend and those who are, working, the staff, the receptionists, the cooks, the chefs, the watch, everybody goes to pray. And I was with a colleague of mine, and we sat outside. We said, well, pray Jama, maybe we can combine it later. But we felt, we were like on our own. So Somalis are not only very, very attached to the Quran, but to Salah, to Deen, to Hijab, and to see a Somali, not praying, to see a Somali not fasting, is very, very unheard of. And they love the Quran, that everywhere you go, you'll see Quran recitation, children reciting the Quran. I went to visit my great-grandfather's qabr, where he was buried. They turned part of it into a Quran class. They call it Duksi, that's the name they use. So the Quran, they do love the Quran, and they love their religion. They're very proud. They're very humble. And Sheikh Hafid, thank you for mentioning that, there are outside sources that instigate fighting and so it's not only internal, but from outside they will come from different. We don't want to go into detail, but there are people who just would like to see not only Somalis but all Muslims fighting and dividing and hating one another. So those 2 points, Sheikh Hafid, indeed, the Quran, they love the Quran, they love their religion. They're very proud. They're very, very passionate about the Muslims. No.
شكرا جزاكم الله خير.
So, abdulWahhab, other than buildings and things in the museum, anything else you noticed in terms maybe of attire or food maybe, or words or anything that to show the influence of Omanis other than, like building and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely, Halam. And, I had also videos, but moving from one, I can even show you how a lot of influence in not only maybe can I play a video, because they were playing even folk from Sur, but anyway, I'm not very high tech. I have both the traditional song from the way the people in Sharqiya do it. I have a video, but I might lose what you call even the connection. I'm worried. And also the food, also the dress, and also what they learned from Oman is, they say, is the hospitality. As Somali, when you visit them, muqabil la shay, they don't want anything from you, but they will welcome you, treat you like their brother. And also Somalis amazingly, those of us, for example, who have lived in part of other places of the world, they have this amazing unity when they're outside or between different. If they're in America, they will be very united. So they have this sense of unity. So answering your question, Ahlam, there is folklore, there is in the tradition, in the art, in the way they dress, in the food, of course. There's a lot of influence from Omanis now.
Anyone else? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank you. My name is Muhammad Bihi. I live in Salalah. Currently, I'm in Muscat. So I would like to thank you for this lecture. It was late, so can you please return to us when this started, the arrival of the Omanis in Mogadishu, and what was the cost? This number one. Number two, I was in Sohar, Yom Sana Omani yesterday. So I met a lot of Omanis. I was asking them, the Omanis tradition, businessmen and terrorists that were in East Africa and all around the world in earlier, and they have good connection with East Africa. If you say I'm Omani in East Africa, especially in Mogadishu or in Mombasa, you are more welcome. So why they are not this time? They are absent this time, like others investing in the ports or investing in the infrastructure. You see that the monies are somehow not competing in the to invest in the other parts. Well, they have a good connection, and they are very welcoming. That's my two questions.
Well, brother, very, 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 very good questions. Both of them, amazing, really. I think the first question, it requires a lot of time, to be honest. So I would really ask you to do even a research. When did Oman start to arrive? It was from the days of Nabahana, and there are records showing that Omanis arrived in the Banadir area, like 400 years ago, 500 years ago. So it's a very long, and there are many documents, many writings, many scriptures in the archives. So the first question is a very long subject, but I will move on to the second one. Is that why are not Omanis, having been in East Africa and the Horn of Africa, living with them, married there, and all of a sudden we don't see them in the business wise. We don't see the investments. We don't see their competing, as you said, the right word, building the ports or the airports, and so what is the reason that Omanis are not in front? Omanis know the people in East Africa and Somalia. They speak their languages, whether it's Swahili, whether it's Somali, whether it's Balaba, and so on. And I don't have an answer to you directly, but I will tell you that why we visited ourselves is to bring this back. The delegation that went to Somalia, headed by very, very senior government official, is for this reason, to bring back the influence, the trade, the commerce, to exchange the culture, even exchanging of students, exchanging of experts in different fields. That the intention is there, the aim is there. And it's up to us and different sectors, not only government, but even private sectors. So why are not Omani businessmen investing in Somalia and other parts of the East African as much as they do in other places? So you have asked very, very good, but also very difficult questions. So forgive me if I don't give you a satisfying answer.
But maybe, Sheikh AbdulWahhab, we can add, people usually, investors, they want to have security. They want to have, they want to invest in places where there's a rule of law. They want to make sure the investment is preserved. They want to make sure, they can take back the benefit of the investment. Therefore, many of these countries, maybe they have not developed environment conducive for investment. So maybe that's the reason, and they keep talking, there are Omanis investing in East Africa. They are very prominent businessmen in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Burundi, in other places. It's not like they are not there. But investment usually, I think, is tied up with especially in the modern time, with the incentives, with the laws that protect investment. And this is something maybe it is lacking in Africa. People, they have this idea of there's a lot of corruption. The rules are not necessarily conducive, because people, they have other options. Instead of going to invest in Somalia, if it's just an investment, we go there because we have the ethnic ties. There's something, it is something that we cannot avoid, because we need, we have families, we have, we have this emotional connection with those places. But when it comes to investment, is a different kind of decision that people make.
Yeah. I agree.
I would like to come back and
Good morning.
thank Sheikh Hafid. But they said who comes earlier grabs most. You know, the Turkish airline is the most successful route from Mogadishu to Istanbul. It's full around the year. And I'm not talking about personals, but I'm talking about such as you know, our neighbor Emirates, they invest in the ports. So when there is high risk, there's high return, and who comes first will get the most. So since it's a virgin country, it's a promoting country, and everything will come back. But who will be ready to take risk? That will be most welcome. But we hope Oman to take the lead, do something, and at least do investment in some way, somehow of way.
Wallah, Muhammad Bihi, you are very right. When there is high risk, there is high return. And as you said, you know, there is this bondage that ties us with Somalia. So as we said, إحنا أولى from others. We have priority because of our you know, hundreds of years of relationship. And when I started, I think you said you were late, but to join. But I mentioned early on, Somalis are known to be brave, courageous. They take risks. They have this amazing, dignified stature, and they will. So maybe that's something we need to learn, and also from our side, take risks and go there, as our great grandfathers took risk going by, you know, traveling all the way there and establishing relationship. Inshallah. And thank you, really. And I will pass on this message to the people, to the government officials in Oman about you know, about this subject that you raised now.
Hello. Good morning.
Let's go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes, Ustad abdulWahhab. My name is Abdurrashid Aden. We met at Jazeera, your last departure night.
Yes.
When you
yes,
were tomorrow.
Yes.
And we discussed a little bit, but we didn't discuss so much. You gave us a very good presentation about the historical of Said Bargash, and we knew about it with Somali people. I will just suggest you to come back with your team again, so we can move up to Marca, Barave, Kismayo, all these areas. Thank you very much.
Shukran, Abdul Rashid. And really, I mean, I'm so happy, and I'm sure everybody else is here in Oman when we see our brothers and sisters, you know, from Somalia joining us and discuss. And believe me, this is a platform. It starts from places like here, and we will come back, inshallah, no doubt. And I showed earlier on the map of Somalia how strategically it's located. Banadr, by the way, means ports, and there are so many of them that Brother Abdul Rashid mentioned, like Ismail, Marka, and so on and so forth. And they are extremely rich. They are richer than, you know, we can imagine. Now. Yeah, are we still here?
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله, Sister Saada Al-Ghafir.
Thank you very much, brother, for the talk. With regards to Siad Barre,
no.
I think the problem started because he became too close to Russia. No. So the place was turning into communism, and therefore there had to be intervention from the big powers. I did visit Somalia in 1973, and I stayed in a military camp in Marka. And Somalia was developing very well. In fact, they had very good reforestation programs where they found out that the desert was spreading. And I think part of the forest that you have shown this time is the result of the projects of the 70s. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saada. Wallah, 1973. You sound like you were born in 1983. So, MashaAllah, Allah يعطي الصحة وعافية وعمر طويل. And Sheikh Hafid also visited Somalia. And you know, the question that keeps coming is what happened? Why did it go يعني, so يعني, into this mess? And indeed, I agree with you. I think Ziad Barre was really leaning to communism, and they wanted him out. And so during his reign, I mean, there was peace, but at the same time, of course, there was dictatorship. But this is the way it is, and what we want to look is into the future. How can Somalia be back again strongly? And can you imagine some even, you know, there are some documents showing Somalia was giving, you know, zakat and giving, you know, charity to outside because it is extremely wealthy, really. When you visit that land, you realize that left, right, there is natural resources in great abundance. And as Muhammad bin said, why don't we go there as Omanis and invest? Because there is high potential of growth now.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته سيد عبد الوهاب. محمد
وعليكم السلام. محمد حياك. اهلا وسهلا. اهلا
جزاك الله
وسهلا.
خير. Just I want to thank you for this interesting lecture. جزاك الله خير. We really learned a lot from you. شكرا جزيلا. And thank you everyone for joining us, especially حسن عبد الله البوسعيدي. شكرا جزيلا يا شيخ حسن. جزاك الله خير.
بارك الله فيك. بارك الله فيك. أهلا وسهلا.
شكرا محمد. شكرا.
Last question, Sheikh AbdulWahhab. You know, in the past, I remember Somalia suffered from, you know, acute hunger, and there was the international intervention. You mentioned about the possibility of Somalia providing food security. So what is the situation today? Is it these kind of issues have been overcome? I know that the previous one, it was also related to environmental issue. I think there was a Jafaf for a long time. It didn't affect only Somalia, it affected some other neighboring countries as well. But what is the situation today? Is it Somalia back green, you know, because you mentioned about food security, yeah?
Yes. The reason, Sheikh Hafid, I mentioned about food security is that Somalia is, as I said, very, very rich in agriculture and fertile land. And between Bosaso and Salala, you know, it's just a very short distance. We as Oman, we get most of our food supplies, you know, if you go to Souq Ma'al, it's from the north. They come from the border from the north, you know, vegetables from, you name it. So it's always good to have another source from the south, from Yemen or from Somalia, because you know, food security is a national security thing for any country. So you would like to have alternative in case something happens. You can always rely. So, and regarding your question, why is famine, you know, so rampant, and what happened in the 80s when we saw those children turning skeleton? First of all, there is, of course, no doubt climate change all over the world. Yeah, there are places turning into deserts. Even I was watching a documentary about Amazon last night. This climate change is real, and it started a long time ago, and it's having an impact. But the thing is, how do you manage it? I mean, we know the climate change accepts in some developed countries, but it's still they manage by, you know, either doing more irrigation or by finding other sources of you know, finding water for their farms. So I think Somalia is still rich, is still with high potential. and famine is reality. The climate change is reality, but it can be managed. It can be managed. We in Oman, our ancestors have lived in a desert by running floods and canals, and and so and Somalia still rains. So it's still they have two permanent rivers, as I said, river Juba and Shabelle. So there is a future, regardless of this famine that we hear of. There is a future in it. So inshallah, we pray to Allah Ta'ala to make things better. But drought is a reality, but if you manage it well, you don't even feel it. No. Barakallah fikum. It's now
شكرا
10:30. جزاكم الله خير. شكرا أحلام. شكرا Sheikh Hafid. And inshallah, and thank you really for those of us who joined from either Salala, and for their really kind words. And this is what we look for, unity and working together as Muslims and as brothers, and for the sake of our religion. وجزاكم الله خير. هذا وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأحسنتم.
Thank you. abdulWahhab. شكرا أستاذ عبدالوهاب. بارك الله فيك.
Thank you all for attending, and inshallah we see you again next week.
Thank you very much.
بارك الله.